All right, thanks for joining us tonight, everybody. Before we begin, we're just gonna give it a few minutes, let everybody, kind of filter in, get situated. While we're waiting for that, couple reminders, your audio and video are turned off, so you don't have to worry if you got dogs or kids making noise in the background or anything. We can't see you, can't hear you. If you do have questions during the class, use the Q&A feature down below. We have a couple folks from our customer support team answering questions in there, and it's just easier to keep track of them and answer them in the Q&A box than it is in the chat. So if you drop them in the chat, we'll do our best, but we can't guarantee that we'll be able to get to them in there. This class is being recorded, so if you have to drop out early or something like that, or you just want to go back and watch it later, you'll get an email tomorrow with the recording. It'll also be up on our YouTube channel, on the onX Hunt YouTube channel. You'll be able to just search like onX Hunt Masterclass, new features, and it'll show up there for you. My name's Jack. I'm going to be your host for today, and I'm joined by, I guess I don't even know what your official title is, Braxton, but what do you do here?
I get that question a lot. No, I am the QA resource on the Hunt team. I've been around for 5 years now and worked mainly on the Hunt app the entire time I've been here.
Sweet. So Braxton's kind of the technical expert, I guess, here. So I don't know where I was going with that, but just trying to pump your tires up a little bit.
It sounds like you're pushing all the technical questions onto me, and I may not even be able to answer.
Yeah, you answer the hard ones, I'll take the easy ones.
Okay, sounds good.
So what are we going to talk about today? We've got about 5 features we want to cover, and then we're going to do some Q&A and a giveaway. So make sure you stick around for the end. We're going to give away some onX swag. We're going to start off with our in-dash and our routing tool, which are both relatively new this spring. We're going to talk about our new compass mode, which is brand new. Our 2-finger line distance tool. We're going to talk about organizing your content more easily into folders and properties. We're going to talk about an awesome new tool. Some people may have seen, but it's still, I don't think many people have seen it. It's called onX. That's going to be awesome, especially for you kind of Western spot and stock kind of folks, bear hunters, elk hunters, things like that. And then, like I said, we're going to get into Q&A and a giveaway. So one thing I do want to mention before we really get into it tonight is to have access to new features in the app, you do need to be on the most up-to-date app version. So if you're looking at your app and you're saying, man, I don't see the same compass mode that Jack is showing on there, or I'm not seeing something, double check and make sure you're on the most up-to-date app version. That's a common question we get is, why am I not seeing this or that? We do app updates, what is it, about every 2 weeks, Braxton?
Yep, yeah, every 2 weeks. And then also as a note, I think we'll be pretty specific here on these features. There are a couple that we are giving you a sneak peek to that actually aren't released yet. They'll be in our next releases that come out, but we'll make sure and make note of that when we go over those features. But yep. Every other week, we alternate between releasing an iOS or an Android version.
Right. So, and you may update your app and not see anything different. It's not like we're releasing a new feature every week. Sometimes it's bug fixes and performance improvements and getting stuff ready for new features. But that's something you want to keep up on. Many of you, your phone's going to do it automatically. But if it doesn't, you just have to go in and manually do that update. So first thing I want to show here is our in-dash. So I can't show you the actual in-dash because I'm not in a car right now, but if you have a car with, a navigation screen like this vehicle here, and if you are an Apple user, right now this is just for Apple CarPlay, but you can plug your phone in, connect it to the head unit, and you'll see the onX icon show up there like you see on your screen there on the left. And basically what Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is coming soon. We'll talk about that. They're both going to work pretty much the same, but it's going to show basically a mirror of your phone screen. So it's It's going to show where you are. It's going to show whatever layers you have turned on. So your private lands, your government lands, things like that. It's going to show your waypoints and markups. So you can see there's a turkey icon on that map there. Whatever you have on your phone is going to be shown on your screen there. And a question we sometimes get is, does it work just like the app does? Not entirely. You're not able to like mark waypoints from your truck screen there and do some things like that. There's some, for safety reasons, it's not quite as involved so that you're not, having your face in the screen when you should be driving. But it's pretty slick. It's really nice for when you're driving down the road and you see a bunch of turkeys and you're like, who owns that property? You can take a look real easy. You can tell, oh, that's public land, that's private land, whatever, versus doing what a lot of us used to do, is driving with our phone in our hand or maybe set on the console or something and taking a look that way. So right now, like I said, it's just for Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. We hope to have that out as soon as possible. Just kind of finishing up the final bits and pieces on that. Anything I'm forgetting as far as that goes, Braxton?
Not entirely. The one thing I'll say is for CarPlay that it does completely reflect what's happening on your phone. So if you've got an offline map, it's going to, and you're out of service, it's going to show that area just as it does on your cell phone. Obviously, there's no toggling layers on and off on the in-dash screen there. You'll do that on your phone. And then for for Android Auto, excuse me, we did add some default layers on for you guys. I think Timber Cuts was one of the ones, and historical wildfires. So you will see a couple of different default layers on that we kind of thought were more pertinent to you guys while you're driving around. And you'll see those kind of things that just kind of are a little bit different than what you would see on your personal device.
Very cool. Well, I'm just going to stop sharing for a second here while I pull up my map so we can get into our routing. Give me one moment to pull that up. Share my web map screen here. So what I'm showing you here is the onX web map. If you haven't used this before, all you do is go to onxmaps.com, enter your email address and password, same as you do on your phone, and that'll bring you here. And what I'm going to show you here, you can also do on your phone. It's just a little bit easier to see on the big screen here, is why I'm showing it on web map. But we're going to go into our tools. So on the right-hand side here, this top tool is our route builder. Now, this is a pretty new feature that we've come out with recently, and it's pretty sweet for trying to navigate to an area I want to hunt, an area I want to camp, you name it. So how it works, there's a couple different ways you can create a route in here. The default method is called snap to. That's what I'm going to show you first. So what I'm going to do, I'm sitting here at the onX World Headquarters. I'm going to place my first spot in the parking lot. That's where I'm leaving from. And then where do I want to go hunting? Braxton, you got any sweet bear spots I need to know about you want to share with everybody?
You're the guy in Missoula. I think that you've got all the bear spots over there.
Sure. We're going to go to some place I've never hunted. We're just going to go down the Bitterroot Valley a ways here. Let's say we want to go into the wilderness. I'm going to pick a trailhead. And I'm going to drop my second point on this trailhead. Again, I've never been here, so if this is your spot, this is just a demonstration. So I place my second point there, and as I zoom out a bit, you can see this black line is drawing the route I would take to get there. I keep moving around, it's wanting to draw another point. I'm going to hit save just so it stops doing that. So there's my route. I'm going to dismiss this for now. So you can see if I zoom out a bit, I've got that line going all the way from Missoula, and it's snapped automatically to, the highway heading down the valley here. And then it's going to take me onto the Forest Service roads right up to that trailhead. And I can add more points if I want. Is there a limit that you're aware of, Braxton?
Nope, there's no limit.
You could draw a route all over the country if you wanted to. So that's a cool way to kind of map out where I'm going to go. Like all of our markups, I can go in and change this color if I want. You know, it tells me it's 101 miles. You get all that information like you're used to seeing on maybe a track if you've run a track before. And when I go to my phone, when I'm driving, I'll be able to see this route on my map, and it makes it easier to follow. Now, it's not going to give me turn-by-turn directions. So it's not like a Google Maps or a Waze or an Apple Maps where it, gives me that voice of turn left in 100 yards, anything like that. But this is kind of a way so that you can just use one app and you can just stay within onX if you want to be able to find that route. Especially, I mean, it's cool. I've never really used like Google to try to get to a trailhead like this. I don't know if you have, Braxton, but being able to go into the Forest Service like that and being able to navigate on those roads, I don't know that my Google map would get me to the same spot.
Yeah, and another cool part of that routing stuff is you can see we've got our elevation profile. So if you're hunting earlier in the season and those roads are actually closed and you're going to end up hiking through that road to get to the trailhead, you can go ahead and take a quick look at the elevation profile and know what kind of terrain you're going to be covering. So you're still getting your elevation profile just as we do when we do line distance and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. I see a couple questions in there asking how I got to that route builder. So again, if you go follow my cursor up to the upper right-hand corner, there's this toolbar here. And I click the build route. It's the top tool, looks kind of like an S. That's how I got there. And then it brings me into this menu. So that's the snap to way to build a route. I'm just going to show you the point draw here as well. And so point draw allows you to kind of draw a more free form route. I think this would be cool if I'm out, with my pack on and I'm trying to draw a route. Let's say we're going to hunt our way through this valley or through this mountain range. This may not be the best example right here because I'm probably not hunting in this rugged of stuff anytime soon at 9,400 feet, but Braxton might. He's a little tougher than I am. So let me get to, we got this trail here. So let's say that's our starting point. And then I can just draw points as I go, of where we want to go. We want to walk the wilderness boundary here, kind of along this ridge, get up to this peak. So it's just another way for you to draw a more free-form line to draw that route out. Personally, I'm probably going to use snap to most of the time. I think that's probably what most folks are going to use more often, but you do have that option if you want to draw, and you can do this in town. You can do this if you want to take, draw along the roads you want to take or whatever, instead of doing the snap to. I just think the snap to is so convenient and so quick and fast. That's what I'm going to default to most of the time. What did I forget on Route Builder, Braxton?
I think you pretty much nailed it. I think the real use case for that, the snap to, it's got to be a feature that's built into our maps. So trails, roads, you're not going to be able to do obviously any snap to over just bare property or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a use case for each one, and they definitely have their purpose. But
for sure,
nailed it.
That's a good point. So if you're hunting private land and you have a whole bunch of trails cut out, through your private, that's not going to be a feature on our map. So that's where you might use the point draw and draw your own routes through that private stuff. All right, so we're going to jump. We're going to leave CarPlay and routing right now. I'm going to jump over to my phone. I apologize. I'm kind of hopping back and forth here, but I'm going to share my phone screen here. Give me a moment. I have too many notifications that are. Here we go. So here is my phone screen. And what people are probably familiar with is that blue dot in the center. And then to find my location in the lower right-hand corner, I tap my location button. People have used that before. That hasn't changed. If I tap it again, it brings up, some people call this flashlight mode, compass mode, whatever you want to call it. And you can see as I rotate my phone, my map rotates to show whatever direction my phone is facing. I get that little flashlight, that sight cone coming off of my dot. What's new is right above that, you see this icon that looks like a compass. If I tap that, this is our new compass mode. So this solves a couple of problems. We've had people ask us, I want to be able to take a compass bearing, or I want to be able to see, north, south, east, west on my phone. So you can see that up at the top right now. Now, it's not going to give you necessarily an exact bearing like a true navigational compass will, but if you know, hey, I need to go 315 degrees, you can get there, you can get real close. I can also lock this if I want to, where now when I rotate my phone, I just tap that lock button down on the bottom, and that will prevent it from rotating until I tap it again. And so it's just another option for you. If you don't like this, I can tap that arrow button again in the lower right-hand corner, and it brings me back to that traditional heads up flashlight mode that I've used before. So you got both. We're not getting rid of this view. But what's cool and what's coming soon, right, Braxton, within the next month or so?
Yep.
Is this. Go
I
ahead.
I would say it's even less than a month. It will be in our next iOS release and Android release. So in the next 2 weeks, we will have that rangefinder stuff out there.
Awesome. So barring any unforeseen technical difficulties, you'll see this rangefinder button on your map like I have here. So what's cool here is, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so I can get closer. So I've got this rangefinder, and that's what this kind of, dashed line here, for lack of a better term, I'm sure Braxton has a better word for that than I do, is I'm able to point my phone. Let's say I'm out bear hunting, because that's what I'm going to do this weekend. And I see a bear and I range it with my handheld rangefinder, and I say, okay, that's 900 yards away. Where is it on the map? Because I can't shoot 900 yards. I need to get a lot closer than that. So what I can do, I have hit the wrong button, is I can just drag this out to 900 yards. And then I can rotate my phone. Excuse me. Braxton, this is brand new. I'm still not good with it.
No, you're good. So when you are in rangefinder mode, we've made the assumption, and maybe we'll get this feedback from customers that's not what they're doing. But when we get you into this rangefinder mode where you're dropping a waypoint, we've made the assumption that you've made a decision on your oriented direction. So there is no panning right or left in that.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
So let's say I have my phone pointed right at the bear. It's 900 yards away. I drop the waypoint. You can see I've dropped a few during the course of this, but then I exit compass mode. If you're a little more practiced than I am, you're not going to accidentally drop 2 extra ones. So let's go back into that one more time. I'm going to rotate my phone. I tap this rangefinder button. And let's say you're like, man, I need to zoom in. That's way too far. All I do is I drag this slider button all the way down, and it's going to zoom me in closer. And now I can drag it out to 192 yards and mark my waypoint. So it's super sweet way to, range something. Say, where do I need to get to? Maybe you're not ranging an animal. Maybe you're ranging, I want to get to that rock or that tree, and it's 400 yards away. You can drop a waypoint on it and figure out how to get there. This also works in reverse. let's say, a lot of times spring bear hunting, I'm glassing little openings in trees where grass is growing. A lot of times I can see that little opening or that meadow on my map. I can then use this tool because let's say, my rangefinder is not the newest or fanciest. I can pretty much only range maybe 500 yards or so. Some of the new ones are ranging like thousands of yards. But if it's farther than that, again, not that I'm necessarily capable of shooting that far, but I can still range it here and I can say, all right, I found that little rock outcrop or that little meadow on my map. I can do the same process here. I can drop the waypoint there and I can say, all right, that's 870 yards away. I got to knock off 500-600 yards or something before I'm comfortable making this shot. So it's kind of, you can use it both ways, even if you don't have a rangefinder, which I think is kind of, most people have one nowadays. It seems like they're pretty ubiquitous, but even if you don't have one, you can kind of use this as a quasi rangefinder to at least get you in the ballpark. I'm sure I messed something up or forgot something on that one, Braxton.
No, you're good. So one thing that we did want to make note of is when Jack is in locked mode there, and he's not in the rangefinder portion of the compass mode, he does have the ability to make a swipe right or swipe left gesture so that you can make those fine little adjustments in order to get yourself exactly where you want to get to. If you're pointing your phone in one direction and it's just off by a tick, or that you want to move just a hair bit more to the left, we do allow that in the locked mode. So you're not completely locked. You're allowed to make a couple of gestures here and there to make those fine corrections.
Yeah, and that's super cool because I know I've kind of done my own kind of 4-step version of this in the past, where this tool cuts out a lot of the middle ground or the work. But if it's kind of cold out or your hands are shaking or something, it's hard to get the phone just right. So having that kind of micro adjustment there is pretty sweet.
Yep. And I think it's well worth probably teasing a little bit here. We are in works with several of the rangefinder companies. We will look to do Bluetooth dropping with those companies that we do end up partnering with. So this right now is the manual process, and we will be continuing to build on top of that and work with other companies so that it makes it more streamlined for you guys. But yeah, this is our first steps for the manual process of things.
Yeah, and that's a good point. A lot of the features that we come out with, like a lot of stuff we're talking about today, is kind of the current version or the first version. We're always working on improving existing features and making them, more user friendly and more feature rich. So this is kind of the version 1 of the compass mode and the rangefinder tool here.
Yep. And just remember, right now we're just looking at compass mode as being out and live for you guys. But in those next 2 to 3 weeks, that rangefinder, that last toggle that Jack went over, that will be coming out here shortly as well. So if you're not seeing that yet, that's okay. It's still coming here shortly.
Yep. All right, so moving on to our 2-finger line distance tool. Now, this is something that iOS users have had access to for a little while now. Android, I think it was just within the last couple of weeks.
Yep, that's correct.
You released it.
Yep.
But even iOS folks, it's still kind of one of those features not a lot of people know is there. So, the rangefinder tool and the compass mode may somewhat make this feature obsolete, but it's still, I think, still useful and still a cool thing to do. So let's say I want to know how far it is, to the next block over. I'm just going to pick that next intersection here. What I can do, and it's hard to show you what I'm doing on my phone screen here, but I'm putting one finger right near where my dot is. I was too slow. I'm going to put one finger right near where my location dot is and the other on that intersection of Strand and Stevens Avenue. And you can see a line shows up there. It's 142.9 yards. So if you just want to really quickly measure how far the distance between 2 points, it doesn't even have to be my location. I can zoom out and just put my fingers anywhere on the map, and it's going to show me the distance between there. So obviously you can use this to say, how far are we from the trailhead? How far are we from the peak of that mountain. How far am I from XYZ? I can also say, hey, just how far are these two tree stands from each other? That might be useful. I always find it interesting when I go back to Minnesota and deer hunt, and we're in pretty thick northern woods, to be like, how far is it to that next deer stand? And you think it's a long ways because when you walk, it takes forever, but it's only 200 yards, but it's through a swamp and through a bunch of a deadfall and things like that. So again, I'm sure I'm not coming up with all the different use cases of it. I'm sure in the audience, there's a ton of different ways people can use that 2-finger distance tool. But one more time to run you through how to do it. Put one finger down on the map, put the second finger down, and it's going to tell you, I see that's kind of covered up by my waypoints. Tell you how many miles it is. As you get closer, it's going to tell you yards and down to feet.
Yeah.
Anything I missed on that?
And it's super, super handy feature. And again, you're using 2 fingers. The line is only drawing on the screen as long as you have 2 fingers on there. So there is a use case where you probably might have your fingers covering over the distance. As long as you leave them on the screen, you can slide your fingers away from that line and it'll still continue to draw on the map. So don't feel like you need to hold on those 2 spots exactly. You can actually drag your fingers away and get a better look of the line and it'll continue to draw. And even when you pick your fingers up off the screen, we are doing about a 2-second pause before that line dissipates away from the screen. I'm seeing a lot of comments that a lot of people weren't seeing this. We did change it. We originally had it that you had to go into map settings and turn this feature on inside of your menu. We no longer do that anymore. We have it on by default. So same with Android users and iOS, this new feature is on by default, but you do have an option to turn it off if you do desire to turn it off or don't have a use case for it. And that's, again, just done through the map settings in your hamburger menu. But nowadays it is default on for you.
I'll pull that up right now. The top left corner, I'm tapping those 3 lines. I'm gonna go into settings and then enable 2-finger distance measure. You're going to make sure that's toggled on.
Yep.
And then I'm going to close out of that. All right. Next, we're going to move to folders and properties. So one question we commonly get is, man, I've got 800 waypoints. I've got 1,000 waypoints. My map is too cluttered, or it's just getting too much to look at. It's getting overwhelming. So was it last hunting season, Braxton, we came out with folders?
Yep. Yeah, it's been about a year now.
So it's not a new feature, and some people this might be old hat to you, but it's still something a lot of folks aren't aware of, so it bears kind of going over again here. You can see I've got all these waypoints here. What I can do if I want to kind of group them all together is I can put them into a folder. So here I've got my test folder. You can see I have a few waypoints in there. For today, I'm just going to use the test folder for these waypoints I just dropped. So I tap on this waypoint on my phone, and this is something you can do on web map as well. The functionality is nearly the same. Obviously you're not tapping on web map, you're clicking on it. And then along the bottom of the screen here, I'm going to tap add to folder. And if I want, I can select all these waypoints at once. So I don't have to do this individually. I can go around and select as many waypoints as I want to add to that folder. I'm going to tap the add to folder button. I could put it in my Minnesota folder, my test folder, my elk folder. I'm going to put them in my test folder. If I go back to my content, I can see there they are. Those 4 my location ones are the ones we just added there. So why does this matter? Well, let's say I'm planning a hunting trip with some buddies. Let's say Braxton and I are going to go out, and I've done a bunch of e-scouting, and I want to share with them, hey, I think this is where we should go. Here's where we should park. Here's where I think we should glass. I can make a folder, put all those waypoints in there, share it with Braxton. I can send him a text message or an email, and he can open it up and see it on his phone, on his computer. Previously, you had to do that one at a time. So if I had 50 different waypoints. That's 50 different text messages I'd have to send. Now it's just one. So I'm planning right now, this is a real world example, to do a sage grouse hunt kind of in eastern central Montana. And I got a couple buddies that are maybe interested in it. So I've just been doing some scouting on WebMap, placing waypoints of places I want to check out. And I've shared that folder with them. So anytime I add new stuff to that folder, that's going to be available for them to see as well. If I share a bunch of stuff with Braxton, he can't then go share it to other people. That's the nice thing, is it's kind of read only for him. So if you're familiar with that, he can't make edits to it. He can't change them or anything like that. He could delete them from his map, but it doesn't do anything on my end. And if I don't want Braxton to have access to my waypoints or to my folders, I can revoke that access later on too. So that's something cool you can do there with folders. Similar to folders, I'm actually going to get out of, I'm going to stop sharing here. And I'm going to go back to WebMap because I want to show this on web. Similar to folders are properties. So I'm going to go to a private piece in Minnesota here. So a question we get often from folks who hunt private land is, hey, is there a way that I can highlight all the private lands that I own or, my family owns, or that I have permission to hunt? So properties is a cool way to do that. You can see I've highlighted this property here. And it becomes like a folder. On my computer here, these are called hunts. We're kind of in the middle of changing the name of folders to hunts potentially. So if you're seeing something different, it's not a big deal. They're functionally the same thing. But this then acts like a folder where I can mark a waypoint. I'm just going to place this one and save it. And then I can add it. There it is. If I go into my content, I've named this one Minnesota because that's where it is. And I can see everything that I have there. There's my property. It's going to name it the property owner. So Headland Scott M. That's the owner of the parcel, right? And then I can see all my waypoints and everything I have in there. Let's say I want to do another parcel. Let's say, I don't know, let's just pick this one. I'm going to click on this private parcel. I can click add to hunt. I'm going to add it to Minnesota. And now you can see that listed in that folder as well. So if you have asked permission to deer hunt and you have all kinds of different properties that you have access to hunt, let's pick a third one. All I have to do is query the map. Like if I was going to try to pull up the ownership information, I can hit add to hunt. Or on your side, it might say add to folder. Now I've got all of these highlighted, whereas previously people have gone through with the line distance tool and drawn, highlighted the boundaries. This is going to do it automatically for you. So another cool way to kind of organize everything, to be able to take a look at things. And let's say I have some deer properties, and let's say I have some turkey properties. These are all my deer properties. I don't have permission to hunt in the spring because the farmer's planting, or, they just don't want turkey hunters. They got family that turkey hunts, but don't deer hunt, whatever. I don't want to see these right now. I can just hit this hide on map button and remove them. Didn't delete them. They're still there. My folder is still there. It's just hidden. And you can do this with regular folders as well. I forgot to mention that earlier. Right now, I have all of my elk, deer, waterfowl, pronghorn, all of those folders I have hidden because I'm hunting turkeys and bears in the spring. Come the fall, I'm going to turn on my folder where I have all of my elk information, or I have all of my deer information. So that way you can easily toggle that off and on and kind of clean your map up. Braxton, I feel like I did a terrible job of explaining that. What did I forget?
No, you nailed that one on the head. Obviously a great way to organize all your content, and with our great markup service, those do sync between devices. Obviously with Jack doing it on web here, it's a lot easier, bigger screen real estate, all that, but it'll populate to whatever device you're on, easy to manage. Again, yeah, you're going to see maybe hunts on some things or folders on the other. We're just kind of in the process of kind of making it more customized for you guys that are hunters out there. We want it to feel more like a hunt versus the folder kind of build for you. And of course, you can add any markups you want. It's not just waypoints or properties. You got your tracks, routes, everything can go into those folders that you can create on the map.
Yep, good point. And there's no real right or wrong way to do this. We've had kind of discussions at the office even where I group all of my, I don't use properties a whole lot because I mainly hunt public lands. We're lucky in Montana to have that option. But I group my folders or my hunts primarily by species. So I have, and then I color code them as well. So I have an elk folder, I have a deer folder, I have a turkey folder, bear, fishing, you name it. And then they're all color coded. And then I can easily turn them on and off as I need them. Other people do it by year. So I might have a 2019 folder, 2020, 2021, and so on. And then I can easily just turn on, hey, what did this look like last year? What was I finding last year? Let's say I have an elk spot I hunt every year, and I want to know, okay, this is where I was finding rubs this year. Or hey, 2023, let's say, is going to be a really wet year, and 2020 was wet as well. I'm just making up examples. What did it look like on a wet year? You can start to kind of see those patterns as if you group them by year. Some people just want to group it by year. I kind of use this sometimes as like a journal too. And I look back and at all the places I went in a year. That's kind of cool too.
Yeah, one more thing to note there. So when you are doing your save add to hunt and you're kind of outlining your properties there, that markup is actually being saved as an area. So it gets treated just like an area does. So when you go to feature query over the top of that, you might not get some of the detail that you're used to seeing in that. And that's just because we are treating that as an area markup. So don't think that information has been taken away from you or anything like that. It still exists there. It's just how the markup's being treated on our maps.
Yeah. So what Braxton, I'll show you what he means there. If I click on this parcel, gives you all the owner and tax address info. If I click on this parcel, since it's a property, it's like there's an area shape drawn over the top. So if you want to see that, you can just hide that markup, hide that area. I'll do it right here. And then I'm able to see it there. So we're kind of making the assumption if you're making a property, you're making, adding that, something about that property, you have the information you need already. So you maybe don't need to pull up the owner and tax address as often as you would another property.
Yep.
All right, let's get to something that's really going to, I think, blow people's minds here. So I'm going to get my map back to Missoula here. As long as I have location turned on. For some reason, my browser likes to change my permissions and not allow location services to work. Oh, here we go. So what I think is the coolest new feature we've come out with this spring is called onX. Now this is only available for elite users. So you have to have the elite membership to access this. And it is still in beta testing mode. So it's not a fully polished product just yet. It will be, but we wanted to get it out so we could start getting feedback from people and start kind of learning what improvements we need to make and what changes we need to make. But there's two ways to get to onX. On my left side here, I can click Elite Tools, and there's a onX button. That's also how you can get to Route Builder. The other way is over on the right-hand side, my toolbar here, this button with a little red flag on it. I can launch onX. So onX is really a way for you to drill down into a landscape and find specific areas that you're looking for. So you can see my whole map, or pretty much all my map, is grayed out here. So what you can do is you can select a bunch of different, I guess, terrain aspects, for lack of a better term. I can start with the slope angle, how steep the mountain is, because I know elk don't bed on an angle. I think they say like 20 degrees or something like that. They don't really want to bed on anything that's steeper than that. So I only want to see stuff that's 20 degrees or flatter. If I had a computer mouse, I'd be a lot better at this. Let's say I only want to see north-facing slopes, which is what I have selected here. If I move this, you can see my map's going to start. I'm going to turn this off for now. And I'm going to zoom in. So as I move this around, you can see the terrain that gets highlighted. But if I'm only looking for north-facing slopes, I'm going to select that to be highlighted, and I can see here are north-facing slopes that are less than 20 degrees. So these might be likely bedding areas for elk in September, because they want to be in the north side, in the timber, out of the heat, and they want to be bedded where it's not super steep. I can change the slope angle to whatever I want, and you can see as I move this slider, it highlights more territory as I move it up to 90, less as I move it down. Same thing with the aspect. Right now, I'm looking for bears. So I'm going to move this to south-facing slopes, because bears are going to be out in the south-facing slopes that don't have snow, and they're getting that sun and that green grass is growing. I've never seen anything that says bears only, hang out in a certain slope angle. I don't know if Braxton has, but I'm gonna go from 0 to 90. I've seen them in some country that's like, how did you get there? And how haven't you fallen off? So it's a sweet way to be able to say, man, look at that whole south-facing slope there. If I can get up to this point in glass, that might be good. Granted, there's a lot of roads running through there, so who knows? The other thing I can do is I can highlight by elevation. So if I'm hunting, let's say, high country mule deer in Colorado, it's probably a bad example to pick around Western Montana because we're not at that high of an elevation. But I can say, I want to start, I don't care about anything below 6,000 feet, 6,500 feet, and I want to go up to 14,000. Or I could move it up to 10,000 feet, which you can see we don't have a whole lot of around Missoula here. I could also say, man, I don't know that I can take the altitude. I don't want to get above 8,000 feet, which you can see is not a huge problem here in Western Montana. I think most of our stuff tops out about 6,000, 7,000 around here. You can see that start to move. So you're really able to dial in if you know more than I do. If you're like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I want this slope angle. I want it to be on this aspect. I want it north or east or south. And I want this elevation band. You can really dial in and get rid of all the country that you don't want to see, and be able to see that. Now you'll notice the map does, my waypoints here, they look a little bit different. They're just showing the X's right now. So like I said, this is still beta testing mode. Eventually, these waypoints will look and act just like your normal waypoints on your map do, all in due time there.
Yep, and we're pulling in all of your waypoints from your existing account. So obviously you see you're taken into a different web tab here. Everything that you've created as far as waypoints will get pulled over, and you will see them. They won't have the correct icon that you've set it as. It'll just be the X for now. But again, that's just part of the beta part that we're just working through and getting things ironed out.
Yeah. And so what I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to turn all these off just so I have a completely open map. And as cool as all that other stuff was, my favorite part of this is the view shed. So if I go up here and click, it says view shed, looks like a binocular. What this does is it's going to blank out everything on the map that is not visible from wherever my cursor is. So you can see as I move my cursor around, I'm going to zoom in a bit. As I move it around, some of the map shows up in the normal satellite imagery and some of it is grayed out. So what that's literally showing you is if I stand on this location, based on the role of the terrain and the topography, that's what I'm going to be able to see. Now, it doesn't take into account tree cover. So you might stand there, Western Montana here. I might go out there and there's lodgepole pines in my way. But if they weren't there, this is showing you what you can see. So I think I did hear that there may be a way at some point to model tree cover. I don't think that's necessarily in the works right away. But at some point, I think that technology will develop and that'd be pretty cool. But for right now, let's say you're hunting above tree line in Colorado. Everything that it works pretty perfect. But a great way, because Braxton, I'm sure this has happened to you. It's happened to me. I've been e-scouting before and been like, man, this is going to be great. I'm going to get up to this spot and I'm going to be able to glass and see so much country. And I get up there and I can't see hardly anything. I used to do a trick with 3D map where I would pan it down and try to zoom in as close to my spot as I could to try to get an idea of, all right, what can I see? Can I see down into this canyon? Can I see that ridge? This kind of takes all the guesswork out of it. I can look up and let's say, I don't know, what do I want to glass? I want to be able to glass this country from farther away. Obviously, I don't want to be standing there. Well, where can I go? Can I go anywhere in here? Not really, right? I'm going to have to get real close to be able to glass any of that stuff. Let's say I want to go, I'm just kind of panning the map around here to give you a sense of, being able to see things above you, being able to see things behind you, or below you, I should say, being able to see, there's a little bit of a ravine here. If I get too far to one side, I can't see into that. What are some other use cases? Anything I'm forgetting on the view shed there, Braxton?
No, you're really nailing it all here. It's pretty handy with the rings that we've got. Those are fixed set distances right now. We're not allowing any change to those, the 1 mile, 2 mile ring distances. I find them pretty helpful to know that, obviously not going to be able to see too much past 2 miles or so. And so very handy there. But no, you nailed it all. And again, it is a beta feature. So if you do look up in that top right corner, we've got a send feedback option. We love to hear from our customers and hear what the problems or things they don't like about Terrain X. I see a lot of good comments coming in on the chat. Don't hesitate to reach out and use that send feedback. That's monitored pretty heavily on our end, and we do appreciate it.
Yeah. And that's how we get better. That's how we're able to make things better for you folks, the customers. That's why we're here. So don't hesitate to send us feedback. Hey, it'd be cool if I could do this, or if I could do that. That's how we improve. Let's see, what time are we at here? About 10-7. Perfect. I'm going to close out of this, stop sharing, and then I'm going to pull up. I think we've had some questions come in. Before we get to questions, though, let's do our giveaway. We're giving away some onX hats today. So I'm going to have one of our customer support folks drop that in the chat. There's going to be a link. We're just going to ask for your name, email address, and your shipping address so that we can get those sent out to you. Giveaway does close at midnight tonight, April 27th. So if you're watching this on the YouTube recording afterwards, I'm sorry, you're not able to enter. It's been closed, but we do giveaways at just about every one of these master classes we do. So tune into some future ones and get yourself entered for some free onX gear.
Yeah, and before we go on, Jack, I did want to take an opportunity to kind of tease something that the hunt team's pretty hard at work at, and we're looking to turn it on Monday for our elite customers. It is called Image on Demand. Image on Demand is a satellite company that we've paired with that you can get a picture within. We're doing it within about 4 days now is what the time frame is. So it's a satellite image that you can request. It is an added charge for you to get access to, but then it's a flyover drone, takes an image of the picture, and you will get that placed on your map in web maps. So you can see live up-to-date imagery. Again, that'll come out on Monday for the web users. And then we are working on getting that to show up in our mobile clients just here in the next few releases that we go through. So just a little teaser on something we've been hard at work at, and we hope to hear some feedback from you guys on that stuff. Again, that'll be on Monday next week.
Awesome. So Monday, new kind of custom, should we say, imagery option.
Yep.
So you're able to take, if you want to say, I want to look at my hunting camp right now and see what it looks like. You can order one of those images up, and within a few days, you say 4 days, potentially.
Yep. Yeah, we're looking at about a 4-day turnaround time on is what we're averaging right now.
Awesome. And then if I order the imagery, that's just mine, right? I'm the only one that can see it.
Yep, you're the only one that sees it, and you get access to that forever. It doesn't go away. It belongs to you.
And I can I also turn that on and off if I want?
Yep. We allow the option to turn it on and off. So if you find out that it's snowing somewhere right now, or you want to get a picture once the snow melts off, you can go in and grab that picture, and then it'll overlay over the top of your snowy imagery that we may have on the top of a mountain, and you've got that image then.
Awesome. That's exciting. That's going to be really cool, I think. All right. Well, let's get into a few questions. What features are elite only? So the ones we talked about tonight, the route builder and TerrainX are elite only. CarPlay, Android Autos for everybody, compass mode, 2-finger line distance, right?
Yep. And then just to note, that last one we just talked about, IOD, image on demand, that'll also be elite only as well.
Right on. Next question. Will property boundaries be added into TerrainX later? I believe so. I believe the end goal of TerrainX would be to have it look just like the regular map with your property boundaries, and we mentioned all the waypoints and everything. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that is coming. Like we said, we're in kind of beta mode right now. So that's further down the line.
Yeah, definitely still in beta mode. I think the real vision for us is to actually pull Viewshed and TerrainX into the map viewer, so you don't actually have to leave into a new tab. So obviously when that becomes available and we get that all pulled in properly, you won't even have to leave it, and then you'll have access to lines, property lines, everything that you're used to seeing.
Yeah, it'll be totally seamless. All right. Can you use the radius tool offline? I'm guessing that's referencing compass mode. I believe so, right, Braxton?
Yep. Compass mode will work offline. I'm not sure who this person was, but there is a possibility they're talking about the range radius, which is one of the waypoint tools that we offer. Again, that is also offered offline. It's generated on the mobile device, so you don't have to worry about it not functioning. But yep, compass and range radius will both work offline.
Awesome. Speaking of compass mode, can you add a waypoint in compass mode? So that's kind of that rangefinder feature we talked about, and that's not available currently, but it's coming very, very soon in the next couple of weeks.
Yep. And again, this is just our first iteration of that. We do have plans inside of compass mode to do our long press for dropping waypoints, so you don't have to jump into your rangefinder mode. Maybe you just want to make note of a slope or a hill that you want to probably check out later. We are going to allow for that long press here coming up for our iteration 2 on that.
Awesome. This has nothing to do with onX, but I think it's a good question. Who would win in a fight, a polar bear or a gorilla? And I'm going polar bear every day of the week.
I probably tend to agree with that. Those things are pretty badass.
I mean, it's the largest land-based carnivore in the world. Gorilla, while formidable, I don't know that a gorilla's got enough. It's got those teeth, but is that enough to really knock out a polar bear? And a polar bear is working with its teeth and those claws.
But you have to remember the gorilla does have the opposable thumbs. Big game.
Everybody always brings up opposable thumbs. I have opposable thumbs. I'm not standing up into a fight with anything bigger than a house cat.
That's very true.
Gorillas can make a fist. I still think you're not knocking out a polar bear with a punch, I don't think. I'm gonna go with the carnivore on that one. Let's see. We should have probably ended on that one. I see some good feature requests in there. So folks that sent those in, being able to draw a circle on the map to add content to a folder, some new waypoint icons, different color contrast for TerrainX. Thanks for sending those in. Those are, appreciated and noticed. Other than that, I think we've pretty much got it covered, Braxton. Anything else for the folks at home?
Yeah, I mean, we always appreciate the customer feedback. Again, there's some options online for you guys to do that. Again, appreciate you guys all jumping in here and taking a look at these things. We've got some pretty exciting things in the works, and we're happy to share them with you. And what you saw tonight is pretty much all going to be out here in the next few weeks. So make sure you're up to date. I think Android is 23.18 and iOS is 23.17. So make sure you guys are up to date and get the latest features, and we really look to hear from you guys.
And that reminds me, one thing I forgot to mention, if you do need help updating or anything else, our customer support team is second to none. I think they're the best in the biz. So help@onX Maps is the email address there. That's a great way to reach them. We always strive to answer every question within one business day. So if you email us tonight, you're going to get a response, before the end of the business day tomorrow. So that's a great way. If you got any questions about some of the new features we've talked about that are already out, or you just say, hey, I can't figure out how to update my app, walk me through it. We're happy to do all that for you. And the last thing I want to mention, we're going to do another class like this, another new features class, tentatively late summer, kind of right before hunting season. We've got a whole bunch of other really cool stuff that we can't talk about yet that's going to be coming out. So stay on the lookout for that one. It'll be a very similar kind of class as we go through all the cool stuff that we're coming out with this summer and early fall. And with that, I think I'll say goodnight, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.